there are far-right elements who have maybe, I think, preyed on people's fears. Now, the Garda Commissioner, Drew Harris, was speaking to the press this evening, and he is blaming it on far-right elements and what he described as a lunatic faction who have sort of hijacked it. The latest at the moment, I suppose maybe I'm starting from the end, but going back to the start, but the O'Connell Street and Parnell Street has been cleared at the moment by riot police, but obviously it started off earlier this evening, I suppose around about 6:30, 7 o'clock, when people began gathering around the area of Parnell Street and Parnell Square, where the stabbing incident took place earlier this morning, or this afternoon, shall I say. And then it quickly became violent. There were clashes with Gardaí, the local police. We have a number. Sorry, Henry, I live not too far away from it. You can probably hear sirens in the background. So there was clashes with a number of Gardaí. There was missiles thrown at Gardaí, fireworks being let off at them. There have been a number of Gardaí have been injured. A number of Garda cars have been set on fire. There has also been a Lewis, which is the tram service here, has been damaged and also set on fire, which has caused the cancellation of all Lewis services across the city at the moment. A Dublin bus has also been set on fire. And there has been reports and footage circulating on social media of a number of shops around the O'Connell Street and Parnell Street and Henry Street area being looted as well.
So this is a major incident?
A huge incident. Honestly, Henry, now I have never seen anything like it in Dublin, I have to say.
Well, how can what appeared to be a random, awful attack on a woman and 3 young children, which has resulted in a man in his 50s being arrested, turn into what appears to be, I mean, certainly according to the police, an incident involving far-right thuggish football elements?
Yeah, well, it seems to have been, I think there are far-right elements who have maybe, I think, preyed on people's fears. Now, the Garda Commissioner, Drew Harris, was speaking to the press this evening, and he is blaming it on far-right elements and what he described as a lunatic faction who have sort of hijacked it. I mean, we don't know, we still don't know, obviously, what the motive for the earlier attack today was, and I think without that information vacuum seems to have been filled possibly by people with, not great intentions, shall we say, and this has led to, I suppose, anger on the streets. I mean, these elements were starting to, they started to congregate very early outside where the school and where the attack happened. Within an hour or so of the attack happening, you could hear, like, we had reporters down there earlier on, and he was, kind of interviewing local representatives and councillors and Mary Lou MacDonald and the Sinn Féin leader and people like that who'd come to the scene, and you could hear, a section of people kind of shouting and, the usual kind of far-right kind of slogans.
And is this because of the presumed identity of the alleged attacker?
Yeah, it's because of the presumed identity. Now nobody knows the identity at the moment. But yes, it seems to be because of the presumed identity of the alleged attacker that this is what, as I say, these elements appear to have latched onto. Now, it seems to have kind of escalated in that, obviously there's far-right elements, but maybe there's other elements that just have seized on this opportunity, as tends to happen sometimes in these situations, and it just seems to have, escalated further and further.
And what can you tell us about existing tensions, ethnic or otherwise, in that part of Dublin before this attack?
There has been tensions. There has been, particularly, going back to obviously the situation in Ukraine, and obviously we've seen an influx of obviously refugees coming in from there. There would have been protests outside a number of centres that were housing those people seeking asylum and those people coming in from various kind of war-torn countries. So that kind of would have blown up a bit earlier this year, all right, and nothing to the extent we would have seen tonight, but there would have been protests outside a lot of those kind of facilities dotted around the city. I mean, particularly around the Parnell Square, Parnell Street area it's a very diverse area now, extremely diverse. And but again, there have been these fears have been stoked up again by these, as we say, these far right elements. again, with some of those protests earlier on this year, though, they initially kind of started and obviously drummed up by those kind of far-right elements, kind of whipping up fear, with the usual things they say with their unvetted males and all that kind of...
What is it, usually anti-Islam, is it, or...?
Not even anti-Islam, though. Just, as I say, they use those kind of terms, saying they're unvetted males and they shouldn't be in the country, and those kind of terms. But I know initially what happened, certainly with one around the East Wall area, initially, again, I think it comes back to an information vacuum sometimes, Henry. Again, there was that kind of fear when they were housing people in a kind of disused building in the East Wall area. And a lot of the local community initially kind of came out and they were taking part in the protest. But as things became a bit more apparent and, a bit more information got out there, I think a lot of people kind of took a step back when they realised, who was behind these protests, what their actual motivations and intentions were. So there was still, even up to recently, there would still be protests outside those kind of centres, but nothing on the scale of even what was happening, going back a few months ago.
That was Mark O'Brien, editor of Dublin Live, on the shocking stabbing incident that took place in Dublin earlier this afternoon and the violent reaction